The hope of returning Burkina Faso to a democracy has hit a brick wall as political situations in the country have rather taken a dramatic turn. Last Friday, a junta spokesman announced on state television that the leader, Captain Ibrahim Traore, has been named head of state after a coup that ousted Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henri Sandaogo Damiba from office. Tensions continue to rise following unrest in Ouagadougou, the capital, on Saturday, which mobs attacked the French embassy and other French-related sites, alleging that they were sheltering Damiba. The power grab marked Burkina Faso's second military coup this year.
According to religious leaders mediating the West African nation's latest political crisis, the ousted coup leader has offered his resignation as long as his security and other conditions were met, and the new junta leader who overthrew him has accepted the deal. In addition to the agreement not to harm or prosecute him, Damiba also asked Traore and the new junta leadership to respect the commitments already made to the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS. Damiba, who came to power in a coup last January, had recently reached an agreement to hold an election by 2024. Now, joining us for this conversation, we have Dr. Lisan Wadrogo, a political analyst and lecturer at University Joseph de Kibo, Ouagadougou, and Dr. Daniel Kere, a lecturer and researcher in law and political science, Thomas Sankara University, Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So,
a pleasure.
Wonderful. So I will begin with Dr. Wadrogo. Now, looking at the coups, we've had 2 coups in a year in Burkina Faso. What's the reason behind this recent second coup in Burkina Faso?
Major reason behind this yet another coup is the fact that the former junta leader was not successful in advancing the common agenda set together with the younger officers who did the coup back in January 2024. And they've been clear in the communication so far that the aim or the goal of the coup back in January was not to come take power and do politics, but rather to advance on the forefront in the fight against jihadists advance in the country.
Thank you, Dr. Wadrogo. Now, Dr. Kere, the junta announced a curfew following the coup and the closure of air and land borders. What's the current situation in Burkina Faso, in Lasso, in Ouagadougou, and other cities in the country?
I can say that the situation is coming progressively in the normal way, given that the borders are already opened and things are going right now. But if you agree, I would like to say something concerning this coup organized by the new army leader. Okay, I think that the main problems is that there is a fear in the army between the young officers, given that Damiba took a way to bring back former leaders as Blaise Compaoré and his General Gilbert Gingiri. In the army, Blaise Compaoré and Gingiri have a lot of enemies, and the officers, the young soldiers, they fight against Gingiri during his coup 6 years ago, in 2015. There are fear that if Blaise Compaoré or Gingiri came back, they can fear for their lives. This is the main reason that the young officer didn't fundamentally disagree with Mr. Damiba. And also on the problematic of security. Since Damiba came to power, I can say that the situation is going worse and worse. So the main objective of taking power was to regulate, to find solutions against the terrorism. Given that they didn't do anything against terrorism, but they have trying to bring back Blaise Compaoré in power, or Blaise Compaoré members in power. I think that these are the main reasons of this coup in Burkina Faso.
All right, I'd like to stay with you. You mentioned some of the major reasons, of course, the pardon of the former President Blaise Compaoré and some other people by the Lieutenant Colonel Damiba. Now, what do we know about this Ibrahim Traore, this leader of this coup?
Me or Dr. Wilago?
No, you please.
Okay, thank you. He's a young soldier, a young officer. I think that he came in the army, I think 12 years ago in 2010. He became a young soldier in the army. Given that he's young in the army, he haven't a lot of ties. He haven't any ties with Genjeri. He haven't any ties with Blaise Compaoré. So we can say that it is a free soldier that have new ideas for his country. It is not the same case as Damiba, who was a former bodyguard of Blaise Compaoré under the General Gilbert Genjeri leadership. This is the main reason of the difference between the two persons. Mr. Traore, the Captain Traore, is very young. He have no connection with Blaise Compaoré, anywhere with Gilbert Genjeri. So I think that he can bring something new for this country. We are waiting to see his actions.
Thank you, Dr. Kera. Now, Dr. Ouedraogo, angry demonstrators in Burkina Faso attacked the French embassy in the capital Ouagadougou on Saturday, the 1st of October. What's the reason behind the attacks on French diplomatic institutions, and how have ordinary Burkinabés received the news of this coup of the ousting of Lieutenant Colonel Henri Damiba?
So what transpires so far from the earlier communication of the men of Captain Traore was that Damiba was hiding at the French military base in Ouagadougou. And overnight, he was supposed to organize a counter coup and evict them. So obviously, they went on TV and called the people from Ouagadougou to mobilize in their support. So spontaneously, a lot of people have reacted and have gone straight to the French embassy in Ouagadougou, but also to the French cultural center in Bobo-Dioulasso in protest against this perceived idea that the French might be in support of Damiba in search for a way to bring him back. So, and we've always seen over the past years that there's a strong sentiment against French politics in Burkina Faso, but also in the entire region. So, and the French are not communicating clearly when a coup like that is happening, when a situation like that is happening. There's no clear communication coming from them that seems to be neutral. So, and a lot of people in Ouagadougou see France as this superpower that is against their interests. So when the young officers went to national TV and demanded the people to come out and support them, to come out and help them, otherwise the French might help Damiba come back to power, then the response was systematic. People were straight to the street.
Okay, Dr. Ouedraogo, now concerning this, there was reports by French embassy which denied the allegations and said they had nothing to do with Damiba and the plans of counter offensive against this Ibrahim Traore. What do we know about the Damiba's whereabouts at present?
Right. Right now he has been exfiltrated to Togo after a lot of negotiation with Traore and his men, but also a lot of negotiations with religious leaders in Burkina Faso and traditional leaders in Burkina Faso. So, but before that, the idea that what people learn from social media and from the communication that the junta read on national television was that the French were going to support him. And we know that he was trained in France, and most of his close allies were actually in the army. His generation were trained by the French, unlike people like Traore, who did not benefit from that kind of training. Of course, he was trained outside of Burkina Faso, but not directly by the French military base in Ouagadougou. So he does not belong to that unit. So seeing that Damiba could easily get support from that French military base here in Ouagadougou and reverse the course of action was something that warranted this spontaneous move to the streets.
Now, Dr. Have there been any talks of a transitional period for return to democratic order by the new junta, or will they continue the transition that was set up by Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henri Damiba?
Well, right now there's still a lot of protests. I have seen a bunch of people on motorcycles and cars and honking in the direction of the presidency of Burkina Faso today in Ouagadougou here around 2 p.m. And that kind of mobilization is, to some extent, an anti-French politics mobilization. And as far as Damiba is concerned, it's over. He's out of the country, and there's nobody openly in support of him. So there's no reason for that kind of protest to keep going on. And Traore and his men have issued a number of communiques stressing the fact that France is not your enemy here and you should stop. And at some point, Traore's men were actually between the crowds and the French establishment. Otherwise, earlier yesterday, I've seen a lot of social media posts arguing and asking people to go burn down gas stations that reportedly belong to France.
Okay, I'd like to hear from Dr. Curry on this, because earlier on there were supposed to be election agreements for March 2024, which is what we're discussing about. And one of the agreements that Damiba gave for his resignation was for them not to prosecute or harm him, and so many other things, and also to follow the timelines and the agreements laid by ECOWAS, which is for the elections. Do you think that Traore, this new military junta, will follow in these footsteps? Or do you think, since you said rightly that Damiba is in Togo, what happens next?
Okay, let me say a few words about Damiba ties with French militaries. Damiba belonged to a military group that was in the same place as French military in Burkina Faso. The place is called Capt. In this place, you have Damiba members and you have French military members. And the coup organized in January came from this group. So since Damiba came to power, there were persons were very suspicious concerning the ties between Damiba and French militaries. Let me say another word. People many times ask our army to get another partners different from France, but Damiba always refused it. So I can say that the suspicion was legitimacy. They had a kind of legitimacy about these suspicions. Concerning the process to come back to a normal order, to constitutional orders, I think that the new junta will try to comply with CEDEAO ECOWAS calendar, given that we have still 2 years in 2024 to organize elections and bring back civils to power. And the new junta says that they say that the new president could be a civil. I think that thing is going progressively to try to comply with CEDEAO ECOWAS orders, but it depends on the security agenda.
Exactly.
If they overcome the terrorism, I think that they can comply with ECOWAS agenda.
Because, I mean, definitely if 40% of your country is under terrorist groups, then you really can't contest elections in those environments. Now, let me bring in Dr. Ouedraogo. Why are the protesters, because if you've seen some of the videos we've been playing in the course of this conversation, you notice Russian flags. Why are the protesters calling for closer ties with Russia? Does the solution to Burkina Faso's insecurity lie with Russia?
Well, the thing is that over the past 12 years, France has been in the region, starting with Mali, and then the insurgency came to Burkina Faso, and there have been fighting alongside with the Burkinabe men, but the truth of the matter is that they have not been able to present clear results. And for the layperson in Burkina Faso, the idea that France is here and supporting Burkinabe army in the fight against jihadism, and France has all of its logistic power. They have all the material, they have all the equipment, but they are not able to show clear results on the streets. And on the other side, you have Mali, which, although one might say that the situation has not improved the way the Malians want it, but at least the Malians are showing tremendous advancement, and the Malian populations are in support of.
Can you hear us? Okay. I think I'll put that question to Dr. Curry now. You're looking at the issue of insecurity and the ties with Russia. Is Russia the new safe bet? Because we see Mali going against French, and then the Russia comes in with the Wagner mercenaries. Is Russia the safe bet for Burkina Faso at this time?
I think that we're trying to get another partnership with Russia. I think that there are many reasons. The first reason is that Russia is not our former colonial power. This is the main reason. Secondly, I think that Russia have got best results in Mali, in Central Africa, and progressively in these countries, the ruling leaders are overcoming the terrorism. The problem of France in our country is that many persons think that France is not very clear. Probably they are behind the terrorism. Where terrorism can find arms to fight against our army, where they can get informations, where they can get a lot of technology, if they are not backing by a strong power. Many persons believe that, given that France is in our countries, they know our army secrets, they have a lot of informations, they have a lot of army to provide to terrorism. But concerning the Mali and Burkina Faso, the connection with Russia, I think that there is a difference. If you go to Mali, many persons have studied in Russia. It is not the case in Burkina Faso. But this difficulty can be overcome progressively if they find a common ground to discuss and find the benefit between our countries, between Mali, between Burkina Faso and Russia. I think that if they can get some kind of a strong partnership with Russia, progressively things will go on the best way.
Still looking at this now, we've had military incursions. Damiba came in and said he's going to deal with jihadist insurgency. We also have Traore coming in now and saying that, okay, we can deal with this insurgency. We're not happy with the way Damiba has dealt with the Islamic insurgency. How confident are you that this new regime will be able to give the desired situation change to security issues going on in Burkina Faso?
The only way to get the best results is to get the backing of the populations. If you are a ruling leader, if you do not get the support of the population, you cannot do anything. Damiba errors was he haven't population supports, and secondly, he did some kind of actions that provoked some suspicious, given his ties with Blaise Compaoré and Gilbert Diendéré. This new junta, if they try to get the support of populations, I think that it is the first way to overcome terrorism. If the civil society support this regime, I think that they can get strong results. But if they don't do that, we are sure that probably the situation will go worse and worse.
Okay, let's bring in Dr. Ouedraogo. Dr. Kerry just mentioned something quite instructive that did put the people against him. And I'm talking about 7 Justice, the manner in which the former president of Burkina Faso, Capt. Sankara, was killed was gruesome. And then the courts in Burkina Faso did find Blaise Compaoré guilty of this and, sentenced him to jail. But a few months later, you see Colonel Damiba roll out the red carpets for this same man that is guilty of the murder of a former head of state. So are we going to see a sort of retrial or see that justice is served? Will he be extradited to Burkina Faso to face justice? Because what do you make of all of this?
So with the new military in power today in Burkina Faso, one of the elements that they were actually reproaching, criticizing Damiba for, is him meddling with internal politics. Damiba was not supposed to do politics. Damiba was supposed to help the military gain the necessary tools to fight and bring back safety and security in Burkina Faso. But he, instead of doing that, we saw him traveling to Mali, we saw him traveling to Cote d'Ivoire, we saw him as Compaoré. But like my co-host clarified it earlier, the Traore and his generation did not have any contact or any direct work collaboration with Blaise Compaoré, and they have no reason to go against the decision of the justice system to let him walk free. So, and the hope is that for them to really gain the support of the people from Burkina Faso, they will go back to that decision. They will go back and say, look, we're not against reconciliation, but if the justice has decided, the Justice Department has decided that Compaoré is to be brought to justice, then that should be the case.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. This is where we wrap up this conversation. Dr. Lassane Ouedraogo, political analyst and lecturer at the University at Joseph Zerbo, and Dr. Daniel Kere, a lecturer and researcher in law and political science from Thomas Sankara University, both from the Burkinabe capital, Ouagadougou. Thank you very much for being a part of this program. We do appreciate your insights and contribution.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.